Hello. Thank you for purchasing the Boundaries Workshop. My name is Whitney, and I will be your guide on this journey. Inward, back to your voice, your edges, your truth. Boundaries are not optional, they're essential. They're not about shutting others out, they're about letting yourself in. This wisdom, however, has been distorted through time. We've inherited shame in place of sovereignty. We were taught to be polite, to be agreeable, to be small, digestible for others' comfort. People pleasing replaced self respect, and so many of us never even learned what it means to honor no as a sacred thing. I come from a strict religious background, and I was married at 18, fresh out of high school. I didn't understand what boundaries were, let alone how to hold them. I had no clear vision of my values, no tools for protection, no voice that I believed in. My boundaries were weak or non existent, not because I was broken, but because I'd never been shown how to build them. Over time, the lack of self ownership led to disconnection. I felt misunderstood, isolated, and invisible. The resentment grew, not just toward others, but toward myself. I had lost my identity. I didn't know who I was or what I stood for. And while many factors played a role, it was ultimately my lack of boundaries and belief in my worth that allowed it all to happen. And that's why I care so deeply about this work and setting boundaries. I want you to walk away from this experience knowing what you stand for, clearly, unapologetically, and lovingly. I want you to understand your tolerances and your no's so that ultimately you no longer feel the need to explain them anymore. I want you to explore your triggers with curiosity and grace and know exactly how to care for yourself when they're activated. This workbook that came with the workshop is a container for that exploration, a sacred place to shape, stretch, and solidify your boundaries and return to them whenever you need. And if at first your boundaries feel like castle walls with cannons at every tower, that's okay. You're allowed to feel safe. And when you're ready, you can lower those walls into a strong, peaceful privacy fence. You get to choose, always. The goal isn't perfection, it's self trust. So I invite you, sacred human being you, to start by asking, when do I feel most like myself? Where do I feel safest to be all of me? Start there. Tell me who you are, and let's explore what it means to stand tall in your sacred now. Hello, I want to welcome you to the Boundaries Workshop. Thank you for watching this. I'm really honored that you chose to spend this time with yourself. This workshop isn't about fixing you. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about understanding yourself more clearly so that your choices, your voice, and your boundaries come from truth instead of reaction. This workshop was originally designed as a discussion space, but since you're watching this as a recording, I'm going to slow things down and talk with you instead. This workshop's not about fixing yourself. It's about learning to listen to yourself honestly. Maybe for the first time in a long time. You don't need to finish anything today. Let this be messy. Today is about awareness of your emotions, awareness of your patterns, awareness of the stories that you tell yourself. Because boundaries don't start with other people. They start with our relationship to ourselves. I want you to connect with yourself before we go any further. I invite you to just arrive fully here in this moment. You took this boundaries workshop to better yourself, to help yourself. So let's start by checking in with ourselves. You can do this in the morning. You can do it at any point of your day. I'd like to envision it as a morning routine. So before you start your day, before you get out of bed, it's usually a good time to check in with yourself and see where your head's at, where your body's feeling. But if you just become aware of it after you get out of bed and you're having your morning cup of coffee, or it's in the middle of the day and you just want to check in with yourself, any time to be here and connect with yourself is a good chance. See where you're at. Honestly. Identify your emotions. Identify your feelings. And have compassion with yourself. Give yourself grace. So, if you're watching this, wherever you're at, wherever you're sitting, put your feet on the floor. Feel the floor. We're grounded. Now take 3 slow breaths with me. In through the nose. Feel the air come through your nostrils. You can feel it come around your eyes. You are breathing into your brain. You feel the bottom of your stomach. Feel it expand in your lungs. And exhale through your mouth. Let it fall out. Notice your body. You can do a scan from head to toe or from toe up to the head. Do you notice any emotion present right now? Is there tightness in your chest? Feel it behind your throat. You feel it in your gut or your back. There's no right feeling to have. Just whatever is showing up, notice it. Acknowledge it. Welcome it. Tightness in the chest and you're feeling anxious. Recognize it. Talk to your emotion as it shows up. When you recognize it, when you do this systems check, you wake up and you feel a tightness in your chest or anxious in the morning, talk to the emotion. Talk to your younger self, your inner child. Tightness, anger. Emotions are telling us what's going on. They're warning lights on your dashboard, a little caution light. Check your engine. Something's going on. If it's anger, maybe there's some insecurity and you feel triggered. That deserves attention. Whatever shows up, give it permission to exist, to be there. Give permission for anger, sadness, anxiety to show up. One of the most important shifts that we can make is realizing that emotions are not enemies. They're messengers. A lot of us were taught to suppress anger, to minimize sadness, or ignore the anxiety that shows up, to push it down. But those emotions don't disappear. They go underground and they start controlling us instead. And it becomes the subtle, underlying shift. Don't push them away. Don't judge them. Talk to them. When the anger shows up or the anxiety, instead of asking, what's wrong with me? Why is this happening? Instead ask, what are you protecting me from? What am I feeling anxious about? What do I feel the need to protect myself from? If sadness or shame show up, what are we grieving? Where is our heart heavy at? The foundation of boundaries is emotional self-trust. We need to be able to trust ourselves, that we are recognizing what's happening. We are acknowledging it. We're not going to shove it away and tell it to be quiet. So how do we begin to do something like that? My favorite tool, and I tell this to all my friends and my family members, is to view yourself as a friend. If somebody else pointed to you and said, hey, you drive my friend home safe, make sure you feed my friend. They're pretty hungry today. They skipped lunch. Make sure you take care of my friend. Viewing it from an outside perspective to observe what's happening to you. It creates a different relationship with yourself. I think of it as like a nice introductory way to build self-love, to build a connection to yourself. So if you are stepping outside of yourself and you are feeling anxious, what would you say to a friend who is also going through that same thing? How would you feel if you heard your friend talking to themselves the way that you do? Are you nice to yourself? Are you being nice to that friend? Are you being mean and criticizing the crap out of them? We're often harder on ourselves than anybody else. You are your own worst critic. So what if you tried to be a kinder critic, more compassionate, come from a loving point, instead of judging yourself against the rest of the world? What lies do you tell yourself? What beliefs are you holding on to that are hindering you, that are causing more pain than doing good? If you open up your workbook, you'll see that that is the first page. What hidden beliefs whisper to you? What lies are being told? If you look into those and investigate them a little bit, you'll find most often those aren't your beliefs. They came from somewhere else. Religion, a parent, a coach, a teacher. Or you came up with it based on social media. You need to look as perfect as the other creators do that you scroll through in those reels. When you're doom scrolling and you see somebody else doing makeup and you recognize that that makeup is on point, little do you know that there's a filter over it or the video was edited. Either way, you use that to judge against yourself that you're not good enough unless your makeup looks perfect. You're not good enough if your body doesn't look like that fitness creator that you see on TikTok. Investigate those beliefs. If your best friend was in your situation, would you speak to them the way that you speak to yourself? A lot of our suffering doesn't come from what's happening. It comes from the meaning that we attach to it, the meaning that you give it. So today isn't about judging your thoughts as we investigate and we think about the stories that we've been taught, that we've been told, that keep running amok in our head. It's about noticing them. Some questions that you might begin asking yourself this week are, what story am I telling myself about this situation? Is this absolutely true? Where did I learn this belief? Transmuting the narrative. I have some beautiful questions lined out for you in the workbook, and they are designed to help you investigate these stories that you tell yourself. We are not worried about filling out every single question. This workshop is set up to be a 3-week course. Whenever you decide to play the videos, it's up to you. But the workshop is designed as something to allow you time to explore the idea. Boundaries isn't something that just magically happens. You are making subtle changes to your life. If boundaries are something new to you, give yourself grace and time to explore them. If boundaries are familiar with you and you are working on integrating and setting more firm boundaries that align with you, then again, take your time and explore each question and really feel into it. If you need to take breaks throughout it, take a break. Pause the video. Pause the video. A lie isn't something that you tell yourself because you're bad. It's something you learned because you were trying to survive. So as we go through and we identify the emotions, it's a good place to start by labeling it and naming it. A common belief is that emotions should be trusted. You should always trust your emotions. That feelings are irrational and can't be trusted. So which is it? They're both wrong, really. Emotions and feelings are neither right nor wrong, accurate or not. But what's true is that our thoughts create our emotions. Sometimes our unconscious mind and our senses are picking up cues from our environment that trigger the emotions that you feel. A person's body language, their facial expressions, you're sensing something. There's an automatic emotional response associated to our environment. The rest of the time, it's not the outside world or the situation that causes our emotional reaction. It's the mental filter that the situation passes through. So the situation, our interpretation of it, the way that we think, and then the emotion comes. In psychology, there's a process addressed in cognitive behavioral therapy that's empirically tested and used in therapy, in life coaching, and organized psychology. The key to understanding that here is that our thoughts create our emotions. So in order to control our emotions and change the way that we feel, recognizing the emotion is one of the first things that you do. So if you can recognize the emotion, we can identify the thought that is associated with the lie that we tell ourselves, the stories that we keep repeating to ourselves. So changing your thinking in order to change your emotions is the whole purpose. Everything is created by thought. Everything. So if thought causes emotions, what do emotions cause? They cause the decisions that we make. thought creates the emotion, that creates the decision, that creates the actions that we take, and then we see the results. Other people's validation does not determine our worth. Have compassion with yourself. You are loved now. Perfect now. Love is an inside job. It starts with us. And boundaries become almost impossible when we rely on external validation to feel worthy. When we believe our worth depends on approval, we abandon ourselves constantly. We over-explain. We over-accommodate. We say yes when we mean to say no. But when we begin building internal safety, internal validation, compassion for ourselves, boundaries start to feel less like conflict and more like clarity. So again, I want to take you through the exercise of starting your day with a systems check. We're identifying our emotions, the way that we feel right now. And then we can create a path forward with compassion, talking ourselves through the emotions that we feel. So walking you through the simple daily practice, you can begin using each morning or at an emotional moment. Just ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Where do I feel it in my body? And what might this emotion be trying to tell me? What do I need in this moment? There's no fixing. There's no judgment. Just listening. This is how self-trust is built, by listening to yourself. If you're constantly ignoring yourself and constantly trying to cover up the emotions that are present, that keep showing up, that you keep feeling, then inside you're going to feel ignored because you're ignoring yourself. So you destroy your own self-trust by ignoring yourself. So what comes up when those questions are asked? How are you feeling? What brought you to this workshop? Why do you believe that this workshop will help you? Do you feel like people always talk over you? You're always picking up for other people. You're always regulating other people's emotions and their feelings. Things just fall apart if you don't hold everything together. Investigate those lies that you tell yourself. What are 3 beliefs that you carry that cause you pain, pressure, or shame around the story that keeps repeating over and over? People don't listen to me unless I yell or get mad. People always take advantage of me. What are the stories that repeat over and over for you? And when did you first start believing that? When did that story come about? Who told you that? What happened in that situation? What was happening in your life in general, around you? What was going on? How old were you? What does the voice sound like? Does it sound like a parent, like a teacher, like a coach? Does it sound like a male or female? When that story keeps repeating in your head, if I don't hold everything together, it'll fall apart. Who's saying that? And again, these questions in this workbook are meant to be worked on over time. It helps if you can write it down and see it and review it again and again. But if it's something that just stays in your mind throughout the week, throughout the day, acknowledge it, recognize it. Whose voice does that sound like? What does this belief protect me from? Is there an emotional pain that you're avoiding? Rejection? Are you scared to be alone? Does it feel like chaos, like things are out of control? And then what would your life feel like if you no longer held that lie, that belief? Can you feel that brick being lifted off your chest? Just a small shift, a small shift. When we are reframing the story, it's a small shift. We're not doing a whole 180. I am now the mean and empowered and emotionally regulated perfect person. There's a small shift. If I am okay with being messy, if we're going off of the I need to hold everything together, otherwise everything falls out of place and it's out of control. If I don't hold all the pieces together, a small shift from that is just being okay with things being messy and not perfect. That's not creating an entire schedule and structure to your day to make sure that everything is perfect and not out of control. That doesn't help you. That doesn't benefit you. To be okay and surrender to you cannot control everything in life. You just can't. You can't control other people's reactions. You can't control whether or not your partner makes a decision. Your child decides whether or not to get out of bed today. You can't control that. You can coax them out of bed. You can pick them up. But you can't control other people's reactions. You can't control whether or not the meeting is going to be good or bad. But you can control how you react. You can work on you. Setting boundaries so that you feel good through the meeting. That you are okay when your child does or does not get out of bed. Boundaries are your way of giving your best you to the rest of the world. If your boundaries are respected and valued and you stick to your boundaries, then you can show up as your best self. But if your boundaries aren't respected and you're not sticking to your boundaries and walking away when you need to and removing yourself from the situation, then you're compromised, your value, your self-worth. And then you don't show up as your best self. Our beliefs shape the way that we see ourselves, others, and the world around us. Many of the painful stories that we carry were formed as protective responses. They helped us survive, and we're not trying to live in survival mode the rest of the time. As we grow, those old stories become limitations rather than shields. If we hold to the old beliefs that no longer serve us, that served us and protected us during survival mode to get us to where we're at now, how are you supposed to live that easy flow life that you want so much, that peace that you want in your life? We have to shift. We have to shed what no longer serves us. So reframing is the conscious act of challenging an old belief and writing a new one that aligns with your truth today. It's not about pretending that the pain didn't happen. It's about choosing to see yourself through a lens of compassion, clarity, and power. When you reframe, you loosen the grip of shame and you set up and step into a version of yourself that feels grounded, whole, and free. Just giving yourself permission to be messy for someone who holds on to control. Otherwise, you're not that perfect life coach. If your video isn't perfect, if you didn't stutter or missay something, then you can't post the video. It's not perfect. But allowing and giving yourself permission to be messy, to make mistakes, to stutter. Just giving that permission allows yourself to be a little bit more free, more authentic, more okay with being the goofy you and to stutter. You're allowed to give your younger self a voice, even if she's loud, even if she's angry, even messy. Envision your younger self answering in your safe space. Give them an opportunity to have their reaction, to be big, snotty, vocal, and emotional as it may be. Healing is not linear. It's okay if this is messy. That is honest. As you go through this, notice what comes up in your body when you don't finish. That discomfort is part of the work. A lie that I've carried is, I have to earn rest. I can see where that came from. Where did I first feel this? Did that come from back in school? You were younger. You weren't allowed to go play with the rest of the kids until you finished the schoolwork. When you got home from school, you weren't allowed to go play until you did all of your chores. Or maybe when a parent noticed that you were just sitting around playing, you were barked at. Did you do your chores? What have you even done? Why are you being lazy? It's lazy to sit down and rest. Maybe lazy keeps coming up every time you sit down. Where did I first feel this? And what belief might be underneath it? It's not okay to sit down during the day. You can't take an afternoon nap. That's lazy. You could be doing something more. Remember what your younger self felt, what was happening, and what did your younger self need in that moment when they were called lazy? What would have helped? I'm not finishing all the examples because I don't want you copying my answers. I want you to hear your own. Do not rush healing. You are loved now. Perfect now. The perfect image of yourself in the future should not loom over you. I want to close today with something important. Listen. You do not need to become a different person to deserve peace. You don't need to heal faster to be worthy. You don't need to reach some imaginary version of yourself before you're allowed to rest. Growth is not a race. Healing is not linear. Awareness itself is progress. The fact that you're here today, listening, reflecting, you showed up for yourself. That matters. For this week, I encourage you to simply practice awareness. No pressure to change everything. Just notice, listen, observe. In our next session, we'll begin connecting this awareness to external boundaries, communication, what your limits are, your relationship with yourself, with others. Thank you for being here. Have a blessed rest of your day. You deserve it.